Hello everybody, welcome back to part 2 of what I hope will be a few in a series regarding journey back into film photography, but particularly this medium format film that I've been looking at. There are links in the description to part 1 and obviously the other parts as and when I add them. So as I briefly showed you in the last video, I've unpacked my camera, this Kodak 620 Duo Series 2, and I had a quick look at controls or whatever, but as I said, I needed to do some research on exactly how it's used, because it's obviously slightly alien to me. I was very lucky. I managed to find a scanned copy of the original manual, which has been very useful in demystifying some of the settings. Hopefully we can actually get to use this quite soon. So just wanted to take you through a few of them first of all. So on top of the camera here we've got a winder, as you would see on any film camera. As I stated before, there's no stop though, so there are little windows on the back with red obviously to reduce the amount of light getting in, that will show a frame number once the film is inserted. And there's actually two, and the reason for this is that the film technically has it has 8 shots on a reel, but by using the 2 windows, so for instance if I wound this on until number 1 appeared here, I'd be on the first frame, but if I then wound it on a little bit further until number 1 appeared here, we would then be on a sort of half a frame, if you like, so we can get 16 shots out of one reel. So that's that. To open up the front, we've got a button here, so that pops the lens open, which I'll come back to in a moment. There's a shoe on the top here, not a hot shoe for a flash because there's no batteries for this, but there was originally a optional extra, if you like, of a range finder, which I haven't got, but I might look into seeing if we can get one at some point, but that's what that's for. We've got a viewfinder then. Obviously this is not single reflex, so it is purely a viewfinder rather than looking through the lens, but that's rather neat and works quite well. Shutter release obviously, and then we have a calculator here for exposure settings. So you would obviously estimate the distance of your subject, and that's where the rangefinder would have come in to help you. But we would, let's say for argument's sake, it's 12 feet that has been ascertained that my subject is 12 feet away. I can then look at, I don't know how clearly you can see that, but we can look at what exposure settings it recommends. So that's quite a nice little handy guide rather than you having to sort of memorize it all, although most photographers got to the point where they didn't really need that. So if we open up the lens, like I said, bellows are all intact and everything else, which is great. So we have some settings around the outside. On top, hopefully you can see that okay. On top we've got our f-stop, our aperture. So we've got a little slide here. So for instance, f5.6 there, 4.5, 11, 12, up to 32, f32. It appears we've got a socket here for a manual release, a bulb release or whatever, which I don't have, but again, maybe look into that in the future. We'll see if we can get hold of one. A little bit closer now, we have the inner ring here is our focusing ring. On top, it's measured out from about 3.5 feet to infinity. So that's our focus ring. And there's a little indicator here so that you know where it's lined up to be. Obviously not seeing that through the lens as on an SLR, so you have to hope that that's working okay. We'll find out obviously at a future time. We've also got another ring here for our exposure time or shutter speed. So again, not sure if you can see too well, but we've got a timed option, bulb, and then from 1/25th of a second up to 125th of a second. So according to the manual, there's a couple of extra bits in that, but basically what I would do, let's say for argument's sake, I want it at 100th of a second, and I want it at, where are we, get the right one. Get that at f8, and my subject is, let's say, 12 feet away. In order to take a shot, I would need to prime it first. So At the moment the shutter won't do anything, so what I do is I move this lever over until it clicks, and you may have seen that has primed the shutter, so I can now take a shot. If it's on bulb, I don't need to use that, but because obviously it's manual, I'm holding the release. I've also got a self timer here for some self portraits. So again, if I prime that up and press it, there we go. I'm not sure, I haven't timed that to see how long it actually is, but it should give you time for the 1938 version of a selfie. So yeah, looking good. I'm looking forward to actually trying this out. So what I need to do obviously is look at film. Now what I've been doing is using a brilliant website called Analog Wonderland, family run business in the UK, but they ship to many countries, so definitely worth taking a look. I will leave a link in the description below. Situation with this is it was Kodak 620 film, which is no longer made. It was Kodak's, I assume, their attempt at making proprietary film that you had to buy, but in actual fact what's happened is 120 film is exactly the same, it's just the spool size that's different. So if I open at the back here, and I'll explain what I mean. So as you can see here, we have a spool in the camera, so that's a 620 spool, and the film that would have been on that, or that will go on that, is 120 film, which you can still buy, obviously medium format. But the spool for 120 is slightly different, it's slightly wider, and it won't fit into this camera. So what people have done have either got hold of another spool, buy the 120 film and literally roll it off 120 spool onto 620, and then it will go into the camera, and that's something I might do in the future. But what I've actually done now using Analog Wonderland is to order film that has been promoted as 620, because it's already been pre-wound onto a 620 spool for you. A few pounds extra, but worth it for a trial run, I think. So when I receive it, I should be able to fit it straight into the camera. So we're looking forward to that, and in part 3 we'll load it up and we'll take it out and hopefully get some shots. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I really would appreciate any comments as well that you've got, or any tips, and if not, I will see you next time for part 3. Thanks very much.